Selling AI to local businesses is a massive mistake. Forget what all the gurus are saying online. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the downside that I've experienced dealing with local businesses and even the big one. And I'm going to share with you a very recent experience with a $300,000 franchise bet that we were doing at WinGrowth. Let's get right into it. Selling AI to local businesses is a massive mistake, and it's one you really don't want to be making when you're starting out your new AI agency. The first reason why that is, it's because it's a money issue, especially for them. They make very low monthly profit, so after they're done paying all their expenses, there's not that much left. From experience, when I got to see the inside of my clients, they were making anywhere from 2 to 6K per month profit after paying all the staff and everything they had to pay for, basically, okay? And so for them, it's not really money they think about reinvesting inside the business unless it brings them a lot more money. So most of the time when you're gonna be working with them, they will have very, very tight budget. And this brings a whole bunch of new problems, okay? Because you're gonna be negotiating with them basically every subscription that you need to be using, and they will evaluate everything and they will say yes or no. And if you work into AI, you know that you're going to be using maybe different AIs for different purposes. So you would use Claude if you do copywriting, but you would use ChatGPT for certain other actions, or you will use Perplexity when you do research. So depending on what you're actually delivering to your client, you might want to use different AI and subscriptions. That's already a bottleneck itself. It means that if they're tight in the budget, you cannot do the most optimal solution here. Other than that, I remember arguing with clients over $7 subscriptions every month for PDFs automation that we need to do, or over $20 per month subscription to do chatbots that they wanted because they saw that it was a real plus on their website for their business, but they didn't want to pay $20 per month. This is something that's really not fun to be dealing with, to be honest, and it's something that you just see with the local and small businesses in general. When you work with, if you've seen my previous video, I talked about the level 2 businesses where they make over $50K per month, up to $5 million per month. You don't really negotiate about, oh, you got to use this software and this software and this software. It's a no-brainer that they have to do it. So tight budget impacts the subscription, but not only that. Usually, from my experience, you are going to be running after your money when you're invoicing them, okay? And the problem with this is you want to be paid for the work that you do, and you're going to do a lot of work for them, and sometimes they're going to be late 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. They're always going to come up with excuses, and it's just simply not the ideal type of clients that you want to be dealing with. Another thing that I also saw while working with local businesses is that they're so tight in their budget that you want to help them, that you actually try to work faster for them so that the invoice is not bigger. So it remains a small invoice. But even if you send a small invoice, they're going to be like, wow, that's big. and they're just like never satisfied with the results, which is super annoying to deal with, to be honest. The second problem is there's a bunch of issues when it comes to project itself. So those clients, they micromanage a lot. They're going to be asking a lot of questions, and they will basically have a lot of opinions on what you're doing, especially if it touches their tight budgets. And so they're not the ideal type of clients you want to be working with, because you're already spending a lot of time building solutions that are restricted by tight budgets. But now you're also going to be spending a lot of time by email or Slack to answer their message and their questions. And so your hourly rate at the end of the project is going to be way more lower than what you expected, okay? It's really one big issue that I saw with the small local businesses. It's totally opposite of when you work with those big clients that you agree on some schedule to deliver the project. So maybe it's a 3-month project and you do some check-in every 2 weeks. It's really not the same dynamic here. The other thing is, I mentioned Slack. They're not used to actually using Slack or Teams most of the time. Most of the time, they're going to be saying, oh, can you call me all the time when you have something to discuss or present to them, or can you just email me? The problem with email, by the way, is they take forever to actually respond to you. And so if you have to do some back and forth, it's terrible. And the problem with calling, it's most of the time, it's not really efficient. And a 5-minute conversation or just something like a small detail that you needed that you could have gotten via Slack really quickly becomes a 5, 10, 15, an hour conversation via phone. And then you're not billing for it, obviously, because his budget is tight. So if you bill for it, then he's not going to be happy seeing an invoice. You see how it's like a circle that of bad things just happening that's not good for you. Lastly, for project issues, the scope creep is insane with those clients. Okay, so the scope creep is basically you agree with your client to do certain projects with certain deliveries, and then it's very clearly outlined. And then clients are going to be like, okay, this is cool, but can you do this and this? And while a lot of those things seems like small upgrades, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And tech, those small upgrades, they kind of start stacking and they take many hours to do usually. Okay, so that brings your hourly rate even more down. I had client request something that they thought it was very, very simple to do, and it ended up taking me like an entire day, 8 hours. And you're like, okay, but does that small feature that you want, which takes me 8 hours, are you able to afford that $600, $800 more dollars from like on your invoice if I do this like hourly basis? Are you really able to afford this amount for this small feature? And if you ask this question, a lot of the time they will say no. Of course they say no because they're on a tight budget, right? And the thing is, if you always sit this way, even though your project outline was very clear in structure, if you always say this is out of the scope of the project, then they kind of see you as the guy that always say it's not in my scope of work. You see how that's a problem, right? Because you don't really want to be seen as that guy or that girl that's like always saying this is not in my scope of work, because they're not going to be working with you anymore. Like people are not like, they're not going to give you referrals just simply because you're always saying no to upgrades they want to do. So it's just constant problems happening one after the other, and that just gives you a very bad experience dealing with those clients. The third reason is, well, there's a couple of fundamental issues here. Their operations, most of the time when I work with small businesses, local ones, their operations are very bad. Those business owners have no experience in operations and how they should optimize what they're doing. So most of the time they start their business that's local and they started doing something a certain way, and that's just how they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. And then now you want to integrate them a little bit of technology inside their business because they want AI, right? And you just look at this and it doesn't make sense to use AI for this. And then if you actually know what you're doing, you're going to tell them, well, listen, John, before integrating AI into this process, I need to redo your process and we need to optimize the way you work and you do those different processes because AI doesn't fit there. It's not a good thing to do. But they don't want to pay you for this. They want to pay you $1K or $2K for implementation of AI because they hear about all the hype of AI, you know? And so if you're that guy, you're honest, and you just tell them that's not going to be a fit, then they simply see you as someone that's not capable of doing what they want to do. And then it's just bad rep for you. It doesn't help your agency that you're trying to build, right? So you have to be aware of that. Another thing that I saw with local clients is the churn is pretty high. You see, when you build something, if you've seen my previous video, I talked about this. If you build something in tech, you want to be charging a maintenance to keep your client around and have the potential to upsell them, right? And those clients, if you sell them on a maintenance fee of $200 or $300 per month, which is, by the way, it's not very high for a tech maintenance fee, especially when you're bringing in AI, well, those clients are not able to afford it, and so they churn. And they churn, and then eventually there's some new updates or some APIs errors, or there's always problems in tech, right? And they get back to you and they're like, can you fix this? But obviously for free. And that's the situation I had happen. Like that actually happened to me a couple of times, and I'm just like, sorry, but I have to charge you for this. And now you start arguing over like, yeah, but I want a working product, because they don't understand that tech breaks and that you need maintenance on this type of stuff, right? APIs are going to change, the endpoints are going to change on some software. Like it did happen 2 weeks ago, for example, for me. So there's a lot of issues there. And again, they have a huge mindset problem when it comes to this whole world, like integrating technology inside their business, because they've been doing a certain thing for like 10, 15, 20 years. They don't want to change. And so change management is a huge problem with them. And it often doesn't work. You're going to build something super nice and they're going to not use it. And then they're going to say it's trash. And so again, it's bad rep for you. So you have to be aware of that. And lastly here, lead generation. It's very hard. I won't say very, very hard to get like local clients. It is not. You just have to be creative. If you're just trying to do cold email like everyone does, or cold calling, you're gonna get clients, but it's not the most creative way of doing it. Like if you have a specific niche, let's say you're going after barbers because you've built some systems for barbers, there's some pretty creative way that you can use to go after all those barbers and just find them as a client. But those ways are often pricey, they're costly. And so you end up in a situation where the cost is high and the potential reward is low, medium at best. And so if you just look at, you just take 10 step back and you look at the vehicle itself, it just is not a good opportunity itself. So yeah, that's something you have to think about. Something that I wanted to mention, because that's something that happened last month for us. That's a big bet that we made on the franchise play, because we wanted to sell at WindGrow. We wanted to sell a franchise on a system. And so that's a franchise, very big franchise in the US that has 80 plus location. And basically how we found the franchise was through our partnership network. So it's one of the creative way we have of finding clients. We have partner that works with those local businesses and franchise, and sometimes they know that they need better operations and better systems, and so that's where we come in, right? So one of our partners actually referred to us this big one location of this big franchise, and they use us as a test basically. So if it's good, we're gonna have access to more locations, and eventually maybe the whole franchise if we're doing a good job, right? So that was the intent. So the reason why we sold it and how we sold it for $3,000. Basically, it was we knew that the integration that we were going to do was 10, 15K worth, but it was a bet. We sold it for $3,000 because again, it's a local business. They're not going to pay you $10,000. For us, though, it was worth, because if we do a good job and we know we're going to do a good job, then it opens up to 80 plus locations. So you do just quick math, and that's $240,000 plus all the maintenance, because obviously they're going to stick with the maintenance if they pay for software and you host everything. So if they pay you $400, $500 per month, you have 80 location, just it's more than 300K. But I just was conservative on this, but that was our bet. So we're like, okay, this comes from a referral, so this is legit. It's not like a cold client. So up until right now, we have no red flags about the person we're selling it to. But it did go wrong. Like we did the whole project, which ended up taking me over a month. It's basically custom software development at this point. It's something I would have sold for 20, 30K and not 3K. And we built it according to the process that our client had, because that's what he wanted initially. So we built it, and then the reaction was like, oh, it's super cool, but can we modify this, this, and this, and this? And I want to add this, this, and this. So basically all the problems that I mentioned earlier. But the thing is, when you start integrating a lot of, we integrated Go High Level, WordKeys, and some other old software, and the APIs are very limited, especially for WordKeys if you know the software. And when you start doing a lot of creative work like this, you build a lot of technical debt. And when you want to modify a lot of workflows, which sometimes were fundamental in how he was working, then it's a huge problem. And then it becomes a lot of scope creep that he doesn't want to pay for. So some of the change that he was asking me would have taken like 2-3 extra more weeks. And at that point, I was just paid $3,000. Not even, we got paid 50% upfront. So 1.5K. And at this point, my hourly rate is very low, especially for what I'm used to. So what happened is we basically realigned. We said, hey, listen, here was what we said that we would deliver to you, and we delivered it according to all the audit process we did with you and all the onboarding process. We basically just mapped out everything. You said it was how you wanted it, and now you're changing your ideas, right? And well, he did not like that response, and we ended up not being paid the other half, and yeah, that's pretty much how it went wrong. And so a lot of learnings for us at our company at WinGrowth. Basically, we knew it was a bet. It was like we sell for 3K, not something we would do for everyone, but it was potentially opening a door for like a more lucrative deals. And well, it failed. So yeah, here are my learnings. Don't do it. It's not worth it, to be honest. Even the big one have the same problem as the small one. So overall, if I take all the work we did at my agency WinGrowth, I would say that local businesses are 100% the worst we've ever have to deal with, and we're not doing it anymore. It's a mistake. And if you have the kind of experience that we just had a month ago, but you were just starting out, chances are that you're just probably going to quit and stop your agency, which would be a shame because you're trying to do this to get some financial freedom for yourself. So save yourself some trouble and don't do it. Don't listen to those online gurus that say you should be selling 1,000 units of chatbots to local businesses. Those don't work. Clients usually end up churning after a month or two, plus give you negative word of mouth. It's not good for yourself if you're trying to build a business with good reputation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are my learnings. If you like the video, please subscribe, comment, send some feedback. I read every comment and I reply to everyone. If you want to learn more about AI, automations, and operations, I've got a free school group in which we're teaching those concepts. We're building modules right now. We also provide a lot of free templates for you that you can download and start selling. One of those templates that we provide for the AI content engine that we've built is basically something we're selling ourselves right now on autopilot. That made us $6,000 in the last 30 days. So it's something you can have right now if you go on the school group. Looking forward to see you there.